Last time we studied IR and microwave spectroscopy. And we learned that not every molecule absorbs IR and microwave. For the molecule to be IR and microwave, dipole moment must be changed during vibration and rotation. So, molecule N2, O2, H2 are invisible to IR and microwave because this molecule, for this molecule, dipole moment does not change. Then the question is, how do we determine the bond length and force constant of this molecule? We use Raman spectroscopy to determine bond length and force constant of this molecule. So today's topic is Raman spectroscopy. As with IR and microwave spectroscopy, Raman spectroscopy has its own selection rule. Although molecule does not have Raman active. In IR and microwave spectroscopy, dipole moment is the key quantity. In Raman spectroscopy, polarizability is the key quantity. This is the key concept of a molecule. For full name of IR spectroscopy is actually IR absorption spectroscopy. So in IR experiment, sample is here. And IR radiation are directed at the sample, and the detector is placed on the opposite side of the sample. And we measure the light, how much light is absorbed. This is the experimental setup for IR absorption spectroscopy. And full name of Raman spectroscopy is Raman scattering spectroscopy. So in Raman spectroscopy, we measure the newly generated scattering light. So scattered light are actually scattered in all the directions. So in principle, we can place detector anywhere in the space because scattering is emitted in all directions. So we can place the detector in any direction, but in practice, we usually place detector perpendicular to the incident beam for efficiency. So this is the experimental setup for Raman spectroscopy. And we measure the spectrum emitted from this sample. Now consider the wavelength of light is mu L, and the vibrational frequency of this molecule is mu m. And we measure the spectrum of the scattered light. We measure the three components of the light. First one is that the frequency is shifted to the light, shifted to low frequency, which are different from the incident light. And some frequency shifted to the higher frequency. And there are components which does not change. So we measure the spectrum of the scattered light. The spectrum looks like this. Most intense one is the component in which frequency does not change. This component is called Rayleigh light scattering. And some component appears which at the lower frequency. And some component appears at higher frequency. So the peak position is symmetric about the Rayleigh line. It is displaced by um. corresponds to the vibrational frequency of HCl molecule. These two lines is called Raman spectrum, Raman scattering. Especially the low frequency component is called Stokes-Raman scattering. And the high frequency component is called anti-Stokes-Raman scattering. As you can see, the peak position is symmetric about the Rayleigh line, but the intensity is not symmetric. The intensity of Stokes line are more intense than the intensity of Stokes line. When the Raman phenomenon is observed first, this asymmetry puzzled the scientists. As I said before, the Raman is scattering process, and scattering is a well-known phenomenon among scientists. For instance, it is what scattering, it is what why sky is blue. It can be explained using scattering. According to theory, scattering efficiency is proportional to the fourth power of frequency. So, among visible wavelengths, blue light scatters more strongly compared to the red light. So, this is the reason why sky is blue, because blue light scatters more strongly. Because according to the theory, scattering efficiency is proportional to fourth power of frequency. With this theory, this asymmetry cannot be explained. According to this theory, this would suggest that this component must be strongly scattered, because this is the high frequency, this is the low frequency. According to this theory, this line must be intense compared to the low frequency Stokes line. But according to experimental observation, this line is more intense. So when the Raman is first observed, this asymmetry puzzled the scientists. This phenomenon can be explained using quantum mechanics. Now, let's see how quantum mechanics theory explains this observation. Now, consider the molecule whose vibrational frequency is m, and according to quantum mechanics, vibrational energy is quantized. So, this is the vibrational level. So, frequency gap is m, and instant line is irradiated with frequency L. Now I am going to explain the Stokes scattered light in terms of quantum mechanics. Now to explain Stokes Raman scattering, molecule must be initially in the V equals 0 state, and the molecule in the V equals 0 state interacts with this light. And when the light interacts with this molecule, this photon split into two photons. This is the first process. The photon split into two photons with frequency UL minus UM and UM. This is the first process. Photon split into two photons. And this photon absorbed by the molecules. And the molecule promoted to the V equals 1 state. And this photon is scattered out. So this photon is called Stokes-Raman scattering. This process is called Stokes-Raman scattering. So for the process to be occur, the initially molecule must be in the V equals 0 state. This is the initial condition. when there are no molecule in the V equal 0 state, this process cannot be occurred. So the intensity of Stokes-Raman scattering depends on how many molecules in the V equal 0 state. So the intensity of Stokes-Raman scattering depends on the population of V equal 0 state. Now I'm going to explain anti-Stokes-Raman scattering. To explain anti-Stokes-Raman scattering, molecule must be initially in a V equal 1 state, and the molecule relax back to V equal 0 state and emit photon with frequency mu L, and this photon combines with this photon mu L. So this photon combines with incident photon mu L to produce mu L plus mu M. This is a newly generated photon. This photon is scattered out. This photon is called anti-Stokes. This photon is called anti-Stokes-Raman scattering. So, for this process to be occur, molecule must be initially in the V equal 1 state. If there are no molecule in the V equal 1 state, this process cannot be occur. So the intensity of the anti-Stokes-Raman scattering is proportional to how many molecules is in the V equal 1 state. So, summary, the intensity of this peak is proportional to how many molecules is in the V equal 0 state. Intensity of this anti-Stokes-Raman scattering depends on how many molecules is in the V equal 1 state. And according to Boltzmann statistics, you are familiar with this formula. According to Boltzmann statistics, the probability the molecule has energy E is proportional to exponential E minus E over kT. So according to this formula, this prefactor favors the molecule is in the V equal 1 state, because this is minus sign. So according to this formula, molecule in the V equal 0 state is much more larger than the V equal 1 state. So the intensity of the Stokes-Raman scattering is larger than the intensity of anti-Stokes-Raman scattering. So this is the explanation why Stokes-Raman scattering is intense than the anti-Stokes-Raman scattering, even if the frequency is smaller than the anti-Stokes-Raman scattering. This is the explanation of Raman scattering in terms of quantum mechanics. Now I'm going to explain Raman scattering in terms of classical mechanics. In classical mechanics, polarizability is a very, very important quantity. How do we define polarizability? This is the molecule. When we apply electric field, the electron cloud is distorted. So, induced dipole moment is created due to applied electric field. So the magnitude of induced dipole moment is proportional to the strength of electric field. Two quantity is connected by proportionality constant alpha. This is called polarizability. Now generally, polarizability depends on the size of molecule. So this is a small molecule. This is large molecule. When you apply the electric field for the large molecule, the electron cloud is more easily distorted for large molecule, because in the large molecule, electrons are loosely held by nucleus. So electron cloud are easily distorted. But in the small molecule, electron clouds are tightly held by nucleus. So electrons are hard, not easily distorted. So when you compare the polarizability for large molecule is large compared to the small molecule. But consider the molecule H2. As you know, in the molecule, two atoms are connected by spring. So the molecule oscillate. So in sometimes the molecule stretch, compress, and sometimes molecule stretch, oscillates the molecule. Compress, stretch, oscillates back and forth. So when you compare the polarizability of this state, it is different. When the molecule is in this state, polarizability increase. When the molecule is in this state, polarizability is small. So the polarizability depends on the state of the molecule, vibrational state. Now I'm going to define Q. Q is the distance between two atoms. So polarizability depends on Q. Q is the distance between two atoms. When Q is large, polarizability increase. When Q is small, polarizability is small. And Q is oscillating because molecule undergoes vibration. So Q may be expressed using this formula. Q equal Q0 cosine 2 pi UMT. UM is the vibrational frequency of this molecule. So Q is oscillating. So alpha is oscillating. So induced dipole moment is also oscillating. As I said before, for microwave IR, for the molecule to be microwave and IR active, dipole moment must be changed. But in Raman spectroscopy, this also change. Why? Polarizability change. In Raman spectroscopy, due to the change in polarizability, dipole moment change. Due to this change in dipole moment, this one generate scattered light. This time changing dipole moment generate scattering light. So we measure this one. This one is generated by time changing dipole moment. Time changing dipole moment are created by time changing polarizability. This is the key point, key quantity. Why polarizability change? Because Q oscillate. Okay. Now this is changing. Now E is the electric field. In Raman spectroscopy, we are going to irradiate light. Electric field is applied by electromagnetic field. The frequency of light is UL. So E is expressed as E0 cosine 2 pi ULT. Electric field is applied by electromagnetic field, which is light. Frequency of light is UL. So the frequency is UL. And molecule oscillate. The frequency of molecular vibration is UM. So when you multiply these two terms, this also has frequency component. When you calculate these two terms, the frequency component has three terms. UL minus UM, UL plus UM. We are going to show that when you expand this term, we are going to three frequency components. This one corresponds to Rayleigh scattering. These two terms corresponds to Raman scattering. So to expand these two terms, we need the exact form of this one, alpha Q, which is a function of polarizability function alpha as a function of Q to exactly derive this term. So for this term, we need to know the exact form of alpha as a function of q. Now I'm going to approximate alpha as a linear function. Line. First approximation, I'm going to express alpha as a function of q as a linear function, just a line. So we need two parameters to define this line, intercept this is called alpha EQ, and we need slope. We need two parameters to define this line. So I'm going to approximate alpha as following. I'm going to approximate alpha as this one. This is the linear function of q. This is the intercept here. This is the slope of this line. This is our assumption. So we are going to substitute this function here. Okay. So in this type of mode is equal to E, and Q is oscillating like this. So Q0 cosine 2 pi UMT. A is the light, electromagnetic field, which is equal to this one. Okay. So this is our expression. So I'm going to expand this equation. So first term, this is the first term. Second term, this is second term. So this is our expression. And now this term, for this term, you may remember this trigonometric identity. Cosine A times cosine B is proportional to cosine A plus B plus cosine A minus B. There are factor 1 over 2 maybe. Anyway, this one is equal to cosine A plus B and cosine A minus B. So this term is equal to cosine 2 pi UL plus UMT and cosine 2 pi UL minus UMT. This is our final expression. So finally, this is our equation. It consists of three terms. First term, second term, and third term. The first term is oscillating at frequency nu L. Second term, oscillating at frequency nu L plus nu M. Third term is oscillating at nu L minus nu M. There are three frequency components. As I said before, this term corresponds to Rayleigh scattering. In its frequency does not change. These two terms corresponds to Raman term. Okay. Especially this term corresponds to anti-Stokes-Raman scattering. This term corresponds to Stokes-Raman scattering. So we can explain Raman scattering process in terms of classical mechanics. Now, critical point is that in Raman term, there is a free factor, this one. This one is the most important term in this equation. In the free factor of Raman term, this term must be survived. For the Raman term survived. If this term is 0, this term vanish. Raman does not appear. If this term is 0, Raman term cannot be observed. Raman term vanish. So for Raman to be active, this term should not be 0. This term is important. What is this term? d alpha dq. d alpha dq comes from this graph. This is d alpha dq, right? For the molecule to be Raman active, this term should not be 0. The slope should not be 0, right? For Raman active. What happens when d alpha dq is 0? When d alpha dq is 0, Raman does not show. Raman does not show. In this case, what does this equation means? When molecule vibrate, polarizability does not change. In this case, Raman does not show. Only this case, Raman is shown. This is the selection for Raman spectroscopy. This is the important selection rule for Raman. So for the molecule to be Raman active, the polarizability must be changed during vibration. This is important. Okay. So this is the vibrational coordinate, right? How do you define Q? How we define Q? Initially we define Q like this. This is the vibrational coordinate. When the Q change, polarizability must be changed. But when the molecule rotate, the polarizability also change. For example, when the molecule rotate, rotating, molecule complete one cycle for rotation. Now compare the polarizability of these two states. Now I'm going to apply electric field. In this case, the molecular axis is parallel to the applied electric field. When you compare the polarizability of this state is larger than this one. Why? In this case, when the applied electric field is parallel to the molecular axis, electrons are easily moved in this direction because the applied field is parallel to the molecular axis. But in this case, applied field is perpendicular to the molecular axis. In this case, electrons are harder to displace, move. So in this case, electron cloud is harder to distorted. In this case, electron cloud is easily distorted. So polarizability is different. In this case, polarizability is large. In this case, polarizability is small. So when you draw polarizability, in this case, polarizability is high. In this case, polarizability is low. In this case, polarizability is high again, low, high. So when you connect the line, connect the dot, polarizability, time changing polarizability looks like this. So when you rotate the molecule in one complete cycle, polarizability change. Trace this curve. So when the molecule rotates, polarizability also changes. So we can observe rotational Raman spectrum also. But there are one point to notice. There's a one cycle, one rotation of the molecule. This is HA. This is a HA. So this is a one full rotation. But polarizability, two rotation. Molecule rotates one cycle, but polarizability, two cycle. Due to this fact, selection rules for rotational Raman spectroscopy change. You may remember the selection rule microwave spectroscopy is delta J equal plus minus 1. For microwave and IR spectroscopy, you may remember the selection rule is delta J equal plus minus 1. But for Raman spectroscopy, the selection rule change plus minus 2. This is very, very important. Why? Because of this. When a molecule cycle one full rotation, polarizability rotate twice fast as this one rotation. So due to this fact, selection rule changes and becomes delta J equal plus minus 2. So with this selection rule, I'm going to simulate rotational Raman spectrum. Now, when you observe Raman spectrum, the most intense peak is Rayleigh scattering, 0 to 0. So this is the most intense peak, which corresponds to delta J equal 0 peak. This is the Rayleigh peak. And the first stop peak corresponds to this transition from J equal 0 to J equal 1. This is the first Raman peak because according to Raman selection rule, delta J equal plus 2. So this transition is the first stop peak. What is the peak position? This is 2B. This is the 4B. So 6B. So first Raman peak shift to the 6B to the central Rayleigh line. This is the peak position of first Raman peak. Now second peak corresponds to this one. Now head is larger by 6B. Tail is shorter than 2B. So when you compare the length of this arrow, this one length is larger by 4B. So second peak displaced by 4B. Now one more. Now third Stokes peak corresponds to this peak. The head is larger by, increased by 8b. Tail is shorter by 4b. When you compare the length of these two arrows, 4b increased by 4b. So again, 4b farther away. So this is the Raman peak. Okay. So in contrast to IR or microwave, the peak-to-peak position is now 4b, not 2b, because selection rule changes from plus minus 1 to plus minus 2. So this is important to remember. I'm gonna go into detail why selection rule for Raman spectroscopy changes to delta J equal plus minus 2. In atomic spectroscopy, 1s orbital, 2s orbital, 2p orbital, initially electron is in a 1s state. Let's say the energy gap between n equal 1 and n equal 2 is 1000. This is the energy gap. When we irradiate a photon with energy 1000, the electrons make a transition from 1s to 2p orbital. This transition is allowed. This transition is forbidden, as I said before. So the selection rule for this observation is delta L equal plus minus 1. This is the selection rule for observation. But interesting observation is that even though when I apply a photon of energy of photon 500, this photon is also observed. Even though energy gap is 1000, this photon is also observed. Why? Two photons is observed simultaneously. When we apply photon of energy 500, two photons is simultaneously observed. This process is called two photon absorption. But in this case, this is the one photon process, 1s to 2p. In this process, electrons in a 1s state make a transition to 2s state. Selection rule changes. In this case, electron in a 1s state does not go to 2p state, it goes to 2s state. Selection rule changes. If electron in a 2s state, when two photon absorption occurs, the electron go to 3s state or 3d state. The electron in a 2s state cannot go to 2p state. So selection rule changes to 0 plus minus 2. This is the selection rule for two photon absorption. This is the selection rule for one photon absorption. So that selection rule changes. Now, this is the two photon absorption. Actually, Raman process is also two photon process. Why? This is the Raman process. Incoming photon is involved. Outgoing photon is also involved. So Raman process is also a kind of two photon process. So the Raman selection rule for Raman transition is delta J equal plus minus 2. And this one is normally called Rayleigh scattering. So we usually use this selection. And another way to explain Raman selection rule for Raman is this. The photon is a particle. photon is a particle, and all the particle has spin quantum number. The spin quantum number of photon is known to be 1. As you know, electron has spin quantum number. What is the spin quantum number of electron? It is 1 over 2. And given S, we can define MS. MS can take two values, 1 over 2 and minus 1 over 2. This spin state is called up spin. This spin state is called down spin. Similarly, the quantum number for spin quantum number for photon is I equal 1. So we can define magnetic quantum number Mi. When I equal 1, Mi can take three values, 1, 0, minus 1. But photon is very unique in terms of the fact that photon is massless particle. Photon is very, very unique. Massless particles. Mass is 0. According to quantum mechanics, for massless particle, this state does not exist. So, photon only exists in two forms, Mi equal 1 or Mi equal minus 1. Only two states is possible for photon. Now, using this fact, I'm going to explain the selection rule for Raman spectroscopy. First, this process is a Rayleigh scattering. In Rayleigh scattering, this is the incoming photon, this is the outgoing photon. As I said before, photon has either 1 or minus 1. So the incoming quantum state is minus 1, outgoing quantum state is minus 1. So in terms of photon, the angular momentum does not change. So the angular momentum of molecule does not change. All the process must satisfy angular momentum conservation. So when there are change in the photon angular momentum, the change must be compensated by the change in the molecular angular momentum. But in this case, there are no change in the angular momentum in quantum state, photon state, so there are no change in the molecular state. So this is the Rayleigh scattering. Now, what happens in this case? In this case, delta J equal plus 2. This process is called Stokes-Raman scattering. In this case, the molecular angular momentum increased by 2. So in this case, photon's angular momentum decreased by 2. So in this case, right? In this case, spin angular momentum of incoming photon is plus 1, and the outgoing quantum number of outgoing photon is minus 1. So angular momentum decreased by 2. So it is compensated by the increase in quantum number of molecule by 2. This is the Stokes-Raman scattering. Now finally, this process is anti-Stokes-Raman scattering. In this case, delta J decrease by 2. In this case, the angular momentum quantum number of incoming photon is -1. Outgoing quantum number is +1. So angular momentum increased by 2 in photon. So this increase must be compensated by the decrease in the angular momentum in the molecular state. So in this way, angular momentum is conserved. So using angular momentum conservation, we can explain the selection rule for Raman spectroscopy. Okay. This is the Raman spectroscopy. Okay. And finally, I'm going to take a concrete example with numeric values. Now, the vibrational energy gap is 1000 wave number. This is vibrational energy gap. And I'm going to irradiate laser with 10,000 wave number. What is the simulated Raman spectrum? The most intense line is the Rayleigh line. So the most intense peak is Rayleigh peak, which appears at 10,000 wave number. This is the Rayleigh peak. Now, molecule is initially in the V equals 0 state. And the molecule make a transition from V equals 0 to V equals 1. And the molecule absorb energy 1000 from this line. So this line with frequency of 10,000 lose energy to the molecule. So the free energy of this molecule lose energy of 10,000. So the frequency decrease by 1000. So it appears at 9,000. Because this light lose energy of 1000. And with this energy transfer to the molecule. Molecule make a transition from 0 to 1. This is a stop line. And there is an anti-stop Raman scattering. In anti-stop Raman scattering, molecule is in the V equal 1 state. And make a transition to V equal 0. And release energy 1000. This energy is transferred to the light. And this light gains energy of 1000. So the scattered light gains energy 1000. It appears at 1100. 11,000 wave number. This is the anti-stop Raman scattering. This is the peak appears at this experimental setup. Now, what happens when we increase the frequency of the light to 20,000 wave hundred? What happens to this spectrum? In this case, spectrum appears at here. Rayleigh scattering appears at 20,000. Rayleigh scattering now appears at 20,000. And where the Stokes Raman scattering appears in this case, 19,000 wave number. This is the Stokes peak. And this is the anti-Stokes Raman scattering. This is the Raman spectrum when we use 10,000 wave number laser light. This is the Raman spectrum when we use a laser light of 20,000 wave number. So this spectrum is shifted to the right, 10,000 wave number. Okay. So peak to peak distance does not change. It is almost same. Just spectrum shift to the parallel to the right. Okay. Now the molecule does not have only vibrational level. It has rotational level. So each vibrational peak are accompanied by a series of rotational peak. Here. Each vibrational peak accompanied by rotational peak. This is the full Raman spectrum. First, what this peak corresponds? This peak corresponds to this one. Okay. This what peak? Initial state is V equal 0, J equal 0, and final state is what? V equal 0, J equal 2. The first peak. What this peak corresponds to? This peak corresponds to this transition. Initial state is V equal 0, J equal 1. Initial state. What is final state of this transition? V equal 0, V equal 3. Okay. So this peak corresponds to delta J equal plus minus 2 transition. What about this transition? This transition corresponds to delta J equal minus 2 transition. Okay. Now finally, this transition corresponds to this transition. This one. What is the initial state of this transition? Initial state is this one. V equal 0, J equal 0. Final state is V equal 1, J equal 1. Now final question, this one. What this peak corresponds to? This peak corresponds to this transition. So initial state is the same. What is the final state? Final state is V equal 1, J equal 2. Right? So this region corresponds to J equal plus 2 transition. Similarly, this part corresponds to delta J equal minus 2 transition. So this is a full Raman spectrum. Okay, now I'm going to finish Raman spectrum. Okay, let's move on to another topic. Here, this one. Up to now, we mainly focused on diatomic molecule. Now we are extending to polyatomic molecules. Consider this molecule, water molecule. The molecule can rotate about axes. The molecule can rotate 3 different axes. This axis, and this axis, and the perpendicular to the C-axis, which is perpendicular to the plane. It is just like that. When the molecule particles moves in the 3-dimensional space, the linear motion can be described by 3 axes: x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. Linear motion can be described by 3 axes: x-axis, y-axis, z-axis. Similarly, the rotation of 3-dimensional molecule can be described by 3 axes: a-axis, b-axis, c-axis. So we can define 3 axes for the rotation. And for each axis, we can define moment of inertia IA, IB, and IC. And based on the moment of inertia, every molecule can be classified into 4 categories. In first category is when all the moment of inertia is equal, this molecule is called spherical type. representative example of spherical top is methane. And SF6 is a typical example of spherical top. In it, all the moment of inertia is equal. And the third example, all the moment of inertia is not different, it's different. When all the moment of inertia is different, it is called asymmetric top. Typical example is 1. What remains then? All the moment of inertia are equal, it is spherical top. All the moment of inertia are different, symmetric top. What remains? Two moment of inertia is equal. It is called symmetric top. But two subcategories arise when two small moment of inertia is equal. Two small moment of inertia is equal. It is called oblate. And two large moment of inertia is equal. It is called prolate. Typical example of prolate is BF3. Typical example of prolate is CH3 Gr. So all the molecules belongs to 4 categories. Now this molecule, diatomic molecule, what categories is this molecule is in? Diatomic molecules. In this molecule, moment of inertia in this direction is equal to moment of inertia in the perpendicular direction. Moment of inertia in this direction is equal to the moment of inertia in this direction. So two moment of inertia is equal. And moment of inertia this direction is 0. Right? So it is equal to this form. So this diatomic molecule is a special limiting case of prolate. So diatomic molecule is special limiting case of prolate. Now I'm gonna take a specific example of BF3. I'm gonna show why BF3 is oblate. It is in the handout. BF3 looks like this. The bond distance is RBF3. Now I'm going to define axis. This is the A axis. This is the B axis. C axis is perpendicular to the plane. So I'm going to calculate the moment of inertia IA, IB, and IC. First, I'm going to recall how do you calculate the moment of inertia of this molecule. In this molecule, we can define moment of inertia. This is the distance of molecule 1. R1 is the distance of atom 1 from the center of mass. This is the distance of R2. And I is defined as this one. R1 M1 square plus R2 M2 square. This is the definition of moment of inertia. And using the fact that the center of rotation is the center of mass, it is simplified into this form. This is the definition of moment of inertia. Using this definition, I'm going to calculate the moment of inertia of BF3 of each axis. Now first, I'm going to calculate the moment of inertia of IC. C axis is the perpendicular to the plane. when the molecule are rotating about c-axis, which is perpendicular to the plane, all three fluorine atoms rotate a circle, trace a circle with a radius of BF, right? So the fluorine atom contribute to the moment of inertia mf IBF square. But this atom also same contribution. This atom also makes the same contribution. So we multiplied by 3. So this is the moment of inertia about c-axis. Now I'm gonna calculate the moment of inertia b. When the molecule rotates about b-axis, this atom does not rotate. So it does not have contributions. Only this atom can contribute to the moment of inertia. So when the molecule rotates about b-axis, this atom rotates about c-axis with the perpendicular distance of this one. The perpendicular distance is RBF sine 60 degree. So the contribution of this fluorine atom to moment of inertia is mf, perpendicular distance is IBF sine 60 degree square. This is the contribution due to this fluorine atom, but this one also has the same contribution. So we are going to multiply by 2. So we calculate this one, it is equal to 3 over 2 mf RBF square. Finally, I'm going to calculate IA. When a molecule rotates about this axis, first I'm going to calculate the contribution due to this fluorine atom. When the molecule rotates about A axis, the molecule atom F rotates about A axis with a perpendicular distance RBF. So the contribution due to this fluorine atom is equal to mf RBF square. And this one, contribution due to this fluorine atom. This fluorine atom rotates about A axis with perpendicular distance is equal to RBF sine 30 degree. So the contribution to the fluorine atom is mf RBF sine 30 degree square. But contribution due to this fluorine is same as this one. So we multiply 2. So we calculate this one. It is shown to be that 2 IBF square. So this is our result. So IC is equal to this one. IB is equal to this one. A is equal to this one. So we show that IB is equal to IA. So this is a symmetric top, and two smaller moment of inertia is equal. So this one belongs to oblate molecule. Okay. Now let's move on to next page. Now consider a diatomic molecule moves in a three-dimensional space. To describe the motion of diatomic molecule, we need 6 coordinates. The coordinate of first molecule is x1, y1, and g1. Coordinate of second molecule is x2, y2, g2. We need 6 coordinates, x1 to g2. We need total of 6 coordinates. But chemistry do not like this coordinate. What I mean is that this is consider this molecule. Consider this molecule is in a linear motion. Then it is natural to use rectangular coordinate or Cartesian coordinate to describe the motion, which is the linear motion, to describe this molecule using Cartesian coordinate. But what happens when the molecule, particle moves in the circular motion? Then it is natural to use polar coordinate. It is more convenient coordinate to use to describe the particle in a circular motion rather than rectangular coordinate. This is the more convenient coordinate system to describe the motion which is in a circular motion. So similarly, rather than using this rectangular coordinate, there are more convenient set of coordinate system to describe the motion of diatomic molecule. So we are going to introduce new coordinate system. But the number of coordinate is not different. It remains the same. There are two coordinates. Also, we have two coordinates. In old coordinate, we need 6 coordinates. In new coordinate system, we also have 6 coordinates. So, new coordinate system. In first, we are going to define first central mass. In first, we are going to define central mass. X, Y, G. This is the new coordinate we are going to use. Fourth coordinate is Q. Q is the distance between two atoms. This is the fourth coordinate. So we define 4 coordinates out of 6. So 2 coordinates remains. So 2 coordinate is the angle. Polar angle, azimuthal angle. So we need 2 angles to define the orientation of this linear molecule. So these 6 coordinates are preferred coordinate chemists usually use. This coordinate has physical meaning. Now consider when the molecules are vibrating, only this coordinate change, but x, y, z, theta, pi remain fixed. It does not change. So this coordinate is related to vibrational motion. When the molecule rotates, only this coordinate change, but this x, y, z, q does not change. So these coordinates are related to rotation. Similarly, these coordinates are related to translation. So this coordinate, using this coordinate, we can separate. These coordinates separate each type of motion into specific coordinates. But in this coordinate, all the motion are mixed. When molecules are vibrating, all the coordinates change. So this coordinate is mixed. But in this coordinate, specific type of motion are separated and isolated into specific coordinates. So chemists prefer to use this type of coordinates. Now this is the diatomic molecule. Now I'm going to extend to triatomic molecules. To describe the triatomic molecule, we are going to use a total of 9 coordinates. 3 coordinates, 3 coordinates, 3 coordinates. We are going to use a total of 9 coordinates. So I'm going to define 3 new coordinates. The coordinate definitely coordinate of central mass. And to define the orientation of linear molecule, we need 2 angles. To define the orientation of this linear molecule, we need two angles regardless of the size of the molecules. Then how many coordinate remains? Out of five coordinates are defined. So V remain 4 coordinate, right? 4 coordinate are denoted as designated Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. This coordinate is definitely related to vibrational motion. So when the triatomic linear molecule, we have a total of 4 vibrational motion. You remember CO2 is a typical example of triatomic linear molecule. You may remember CO2 molecule has 3 types of vibrational motion. What is the vibrational motion of CO2 molecule? In CO2 molecule, first type of motion is symmetric stretching. In symmetric stretching, both shear bond stretch and compress simultaneously in phase. This is a symmetric stretching. This one are designated by Q1. In second vibration, which is called asymmetric stretching. In this vibrational motion, this bond stretch, this bond compress, this bond stretch. So these two bonds oscillate out of phase. This type of vibration is called asymmetric stretching. It is designated as Q2. And finally, in this vibration, carbon atoms upward, moves upward, oxygen at both ends downward. This type of vibration is called bending. In this bending motion, all the atoms moves in the plane. This vibration is called Q3. Now then, what is Q4? In Q4 is also bending. This bending is called in-plane bending. Fourth type of vibration is also called bending. It is out of bending. Out of plane bending. In out of plane bending, now carbon comes out of plane and oxygen moves into the plane. Same bending motion, but the movement is different. In this in-plane bending, all the atoms moves in the plane. In out of plane bending, atoms moves out of plane. Carbon atoms come out of the plane. Oxygen moves into the plane. Same bending, but different direction. This bending is designated as Q4. You may recall the p orbital. There are 3 types of p orbital. Same shape, but different direction. But each is separated, treated. So it is same. Same bending motion, but different direction. But it is independently treated. So anyway, in this way, CO2 has 4 vibrational mode. Okay. Now I'm going to generalize what happens when this is a linear molecule which are composed of n atoms. How many vibrational modes has for this molecule? How many coordinates we need? We need a total of 3n coordinates, right? When there are n atoms. So we are going to develop 3n new coordinates for this molecule. We also have center of mass x, y, and z, and this is a linear molecule. So to define the orientation of this molecule, we need 2 angles, theta and 5. So 5 coordinates are defined. So how many coordinates remains? How many coordinates remain? Q1, Q2, blah 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 blah, and Q3 and minus O. Because when you add up all the coordinates, it leads to 3n. So we have total of 3n minus 5 vibrational modes. This is a general formula for linear molecule which has n atoms. We have total of 3n minus 5 vibrational modes. Now, this is a linear molecule. Now consider non-linear molecules. Typical example of non-linear molecule is H2O. To describe the motion of H2O molecule, we need a total of 9 coordinates. Right? So we are going to define 9 coordinates. So similarly, we have center of mass coordinate x, y, z. Now important point is here. Now I'm going to define the orientation of this molecule. For linear molecule, to define the orientation of this molecule, we only need 2 angles, theta and pi. Now question is, this is not linear molecule, this is a general molecule. How many angles we need to define the orientation of this molecule? Now, specifically, this molecule is in the plane. To define the orientation, I'm going to take 2 steps. In first step, I'm going to define the orientation of this plane in first step. In second step, given this plane, the molecule can rotate. The molecule given the plane, the molecule can be in this orientation, or molecule can be in this rotation. Given the plane, the molecule can rotate. So we must define the angle to position the orientation of this molecule. So we are going to take 2 steps. So anyway, in first step, I'm going to define the orientation of this plane. But to define the orientation of this plane, I'm going to define normal vector to this plane. To define the orientation, I'm going to define the orientation of normal vector. How many angles we need to define normal vector? We need 2 angles to define the normal vector of this plane. So we need 2 angles to define the orientation of this plane. And given this orientation, we need 1 more angle to define the orientation of the water molecule in this plane. So this angle is called chi. So in summary, we need 3 angles instead of 2. In linear molecules, we only need 2 angles to define the orientation of these linear molecules. But in this molecule, which is non-linear, we need 3 angles to define the orientation. Then how many vibrational coordinate remains? We have 3 coordinates. Q1, Q2, Q3. So for water molecules, we have only 3 vibrational modes: symmetric stretching, anti-symmetric, symmetric stretching, and only 1 bending mode. In water molecules, we have only 1 bending motions. In CO2 molecules, we have 2 bending modes. In plane bending, out of plane bending. We have 2 bending motion in CO2 molecule, but in H2O molecule, we have only 1 bending mode. So we have only 3 vibration modes. Now, finally, generally there are non-linear molecules which are composed of n atoms. Then how many coordinates are needed to describe the motion. We need a total of 3n coordinates to describe the motion of nonlinear molecules which have n atoms. So we are going to define 3n coordinates. First 3 coordinate is definitely center of mass, and to define the orientation of this molecule we need 3 angles: theta, phi, chi. This is the translational coordinate, this is the rotational coordinate. Then how many vibrational coordinate remains? How many vibrational coordinate remains? Q1, Q2, blah 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 blah. Q3n minus now 6, right? So for the nonlinear molecules, we have a total of 3n minus 6 vibrational modes. This is our final conclusion. So let's take an example. This is a famous benzene molecule. The molecular formula is C6H6. How many vibrational modes does this benzene molecule has? This is the question. The first step is to determine whether this molecule is linear or non-linear. This molecule is non-linear. This molecule is planar but non-linear, right? So relevant formula for the vibrational mode is 3n minus 6. How many atoms this molecule has? 12. So we have total of 3 vibrational modes for benzene molecule. Now this molecule is called acetylene. How many vibrational modes does this molecule has? This molecule is linear, right? Then what formula do you use? For the linear molecule, we are going to use 3n minus 5, right? So number of atoms is 4. So we have total of 7 vibrational modes. This is our final conclusion. Okay. In next time, we are going to study this one. What is specifically Q? Q is the vibrational coordinate. Next class, we are going to derive how to derive the formula for Q. This is the topic for next class. It is in the explained in the handout. It is more involved. It's a mathematical formula is appears, so it is a little bit involved. So take a review. Okay. So do you have a question today? Okay. See you next time.